I'm sure you've heard the news. Another case, unsolved. Another criminal walks free. But what if you could see behind the headlines? Welcome to Crime Chronicles HQ. Here, we don't just tell stories, we peel back the layers of the world's most disturbing mysteries. From chilling, unsolved murders, to the twisted minds of serial killers, to the cold cases that haunt detectives for decades. We break down crime scenes, examine forensic evidence, and reveal secrets others miss. Each week, we dig deeper, bringing you expert analysis, shocking discoveries, and new perspectives. Think you can handle the truth? Hit subscribe, smash that bell, and join our community of true crime detectives. Because at Crime Chronicles HQ, the case is never closed.
What if I told you that dozens of women went to sleep trusting their doctor and woke up missing parts of their bodies they never consented to lose? What if I told you this wasn't an accident, but a deliberate, calculated crime that destroyed lives, shattered dreams of motherhood, and left families devastated for generations? Today, we're diving into one of the most disturbing medical crimes you've probably never heard of. This is the story of Dr. Sarah Chen, a woman who took an oath to do no harm, but instead became a predator hiding behind a white coat. Welcome back to True Crime Chronicles HQ. If you're new here, I'm Matthew, and this channel is dedicated to bringing you the most shocking true crime stories that the mainstream media often overlooks. Before we begin, I want to warn you, today's story contains disturbing medical details and discusses reproductive trauma. Viewer discretion is advised. If you find value in deep dive true crime content like this, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It helps me continue bringing you these important stories that need to be told. Now let's get into this absolutely chilling case. Picture this. It's 2018 in Portland, Oregon. The Cascade Women's Health Center sits in a quiet medical district, its glass facade reflecting the trust that hundreds of women place in its services every month. Inside, Dr. Sarah Chen has built what appears to be a thriving gynecological practice. She's respected by her peers, trusted by her patients, and known for her expertise in minimally invasive procedures. But behind those sterile walls, something sinister was happening. Something so shocking that when the truth finally came out, it would shake the entire medical community to its core. Our story begins with Emma Rodriguez, a 28-year-old teacher who walked into Dr. Chen's office with a common problem: painful periods caused by endometriosis. Emma had dreams of starting a family with her husband Miguel. She trusted Dr. Chen to help her, never imagining that this routine visit would become the beginning of a nightmare that would destroy those dreams forever. The first victims. Emma's procedure was supposed to be straightforward: a laparoscopic surgery to remove endometrial tissue. Just a small procedure, Dr. Chen had assured her. You'll be back to normal in no time, and your fertility will actually improve. But when Emma woke up from anesthesia, something felt wrong. The pain was more intense than expected. The incisions were larger than Dr. Chen had described. When she asked about it, Dr. Chen was evasive, dismissive even. "It's normal," Chen told her. "Every body responds differently to surgery." Weeks passed, then months. Emma's period stopped completely. At first, she and Miguel were hopeful. Maybe she was pregnant. But test after test came back negative. When Emma finally demanded answers and pushed for additional testing, the results were devastating. Her ovaries were gone, both of them, completely removed. Emma had never consented to this. It wasn't on any surgical consent form. It wasn't discussed as a possibility. Her ovaries had simply been taken. "I felt like I had been violated in the most intimate way possible," Emma would later tell investigators. "She stole my future children. She stole my womanhood. She stole my choice." But Emma wasn't alone. As we'll discover, she was just the first to speak up about a pattern of abuse that had been going on for years. The pattern emerges. When Emma's story broke in local news, something extraordinary happened. Within 48 hours, the news station received dozens of calls from other women with eerily similar stories. Lisa Thompson, 31, went in for a routine fibroid removal. Woke up without her ovaries. Priya Patel, 26, scheduled surgery for an ovarian cyst. Her healthy ovary was removed along with the cyst-affected one. Maria Santos, 35, consented to the removal of one damaged fallopian tube. Both her tubes and ovaries were taken, all by Dr. Sarah Chen, all without consent, all with the same dismissive explanations when questioned. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that over a 5-year period, Dr. Chen had performed unauthorized ovary removals on at least 47 women. 47 women who went to sleep trusting their doctor and woke up permanently, robbed of their ability to have biological children. But here's what makes this case even more disturbing. It wasn't random. There was a pattern to her victims. Chen specifically targeted women of color, women from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and women who she perceived as less likely to question authority. She preyed on vulnerability, on trust, on the very people who needed medical advocacy the most. The question haunting everyone's minds was simple but chilling. Why? Why would a successful doctor systematically steal organs from her patients? The shocking motive. The truth, when it finally came out, was more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Dr. Sarah Chen wasn't just removing ovaries randomly. She was harvesting them, selling them, running an underground organ trafficking ring right from her legitimate medical practice. Here's how her sick scheme worked. Chen would identify patients who fit her target profile during routine consultations. She would then schedule them for procedures that provided cover for organ removal. While the patients were under anesthesia, she would harvest their ovaries, then falsify medical records to make it appear the removal was medically necessary. But where were these organs going? The investigation revealed that Chen had connections to wealthy clients around the world who were willing to pay astronomical amounts for young, healthy reproductive organs for experimental fertility treatments and cosmetic procedures. We're talking about $50,000 to $100,000 per ovary on the black market. Chen wasn't just stealing organs, she was stealing them to order. She had a client list. She was literally shopping for specific types of ovaries based on the age, ethnicity, and health profiles her buyers requested. One recorded phone conversation that prosecutors played in court will haunt you. Chen discussing a 24-year-old patient with a potential buyer, describing her as perfect breeding stock, and negotiating the price like she was selling livestock. The cold calculation of it all is what makes this case so particularly disturbing. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of poor judgment. This was systematic predation carried out over years. The victims speak. The impact on Chen's victims cannot be overstated. These weren't just medical procedures. They were life-altering violations that destroyed dreams, marriages, and mental health. Emma Rodriguez, our first victim, shared her story in court. I wake up every morning remembering that my ability to be a mother was stolen from me. Miguel and I have spent over $200,000 on fertility treatments, trying to find a way to have the family we dreamed of. We've had 3 failed IVF attempts using donor eggs. The emotional toll has almost destroyed our marriage. Lisa Thompson's testimony was equally heartbreaking. I was 31 when she took my ovaries. I'm 37 now. I've spent 6 years in therapy trying to process what happened to me. I trusted her. I told her about my plans to have children. She looked me in the eye and assured me the surgery wouldn't affect my fertility, all while planning to steal the very organs that would make motherhood possible. But perhaps the most gut-wrenching testimony came from Maria Santos. My daughter keeps asking when she's going to get a little brother or sister. How do I explain to a 7-year-old that a doctor stole mommy's ability to give her siblings? How do I explain that there are people evil enough to do something like that? The psychological trauma extended beyond the immediate victims. Partners, existing children, extended families, everyone was impacted by Chen's crimes. Support groups formed, marriages ended. Some victims developed severe depression and PTSD. And here's what makes it even more tragic. Many of these women could have had successful, family-preserving treatments for their original conditions. Chen chose the most destructive option not for medical reasons, but for profit. The investigation into Dr. Sarah Chen became one of the most complex medical crimes cases in Oregon's history. Led by Detective Amanda Clark, a specialist in medical fraud, the investigation had to untangle years of falsified records, hidden financial transactions, and a sophisticated criminal network. The breakthrough came when Emma Rodriguez's lawyer, David Kim, noticed inconsistencies in her medical files. The pre-operative notes didn't match the post-operative reports. The consent forms had been altered after the fact. Most damning of all, there were no photographs from the surgery showing diseased ovaries that would have justified their removal. When Detective Clark obtained a warrant to search Chen's office, what they found was like something out of a horror movie. Hidden behind a false wall in Chen's private office was a refrigeration unit containing biological specimens and detailed records of sales to international buyers. Chen had kept meticulous records of her crimes. Spreadsheets tracking victims by age, ethnicity, and organ quality. Correspondence with buyers discussing product specifications. Bank records showing payments from shell companies around the world. But perhaps the most chilling discovery was Chen's personal journal, found in her home office. In it, she wrote about her victims with the detachment of someone discussing livestock. Patient 23 has excellent reproductive potential. Ovaries appear young and healthy. Client in Singapore expressed strong interest. The investigation revealed that Chen's network extended internationally. She had connections to illegal fertility clinics in countries with less stringent medical regulations. Some of the stolen ovaries were being used in experimental procedures that weren't legal in the United States. The international connection. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered something that transformed this from a local crime story into an international scandal. Chen wasn't working alone. She was part of a global organ trafficking network specializing in reproductive organs. The network operated like a sophisticated business, with suppliers like Chen in countries with less oversight, processors in countries with advanced medical facilities, and customers willing to pay premium prices for black market reproductive procedures. Chen's phone records revealed communications with similar doctors in at least 6 other countries. The FBI's International Crimes Unit discovered that this network had been operating for over a decade, stealing reproductive organs from vulnerable women around the world. One particularly disturbing case involved a client in Dubai who had purchased ovaries from Chen to create what he called designer babies using surrogate mothers. Another buyer in Eastern Europe was using stolen ovaries in anti-aging treatments for wealthy clients. The international scope of the case meant that many of Chen's co-conspirators were beyond the reach of U.S. law enforcement. While Chen would face justice, much of her network remained intact and operational. The trial. Dr. Sarah Chen's trial began in March 2021, nearly 3 years after Emma Rodriguez first spoke out. The courtroom was packed every day with victims, their families, and members of the medical community who were horrified by the breach of trust Chen represented. Prosecutor Jennifer Walsh didn't hold back in her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you're about to hear over the next few weeks will challenge everything you believe about the medical profession. The defendant didn't just break her Hippocratic oath. She weaponized her medical license to commit some of the most intimate and devastating crimes imaginable. Chen's defense team, led by prominent criminal attorney Marcus Reed, attempted to argue that the ovary removals were medically justified, that the records had been misunderstood, and that Chen was being scapegoated for systemic problems in medical record-keeping. But the evidence was overwhelming. Medical experts testified that none of the ovary removals were medically necessary. Financial experts traced millions of dollars in payments to Chen from suspicious overseas accounts. Most powerfully, victim after victim took the stand to tell their stories. The trial revealed even more disturbing details. Chen had been performing these unauthorized procedures for longer than initially thought, potentially since she started practicing in 2010. Computer forensics experts recovered deleted files showing that Chen had researched organ trafficking techniques and had been in communication with criminal networks for years before she performed her first unauthorized surgery. One piece of evidence that particularly shocked the courtroom was a recording of Chen laughing while describing a procedure to a buyer, referring to the patient as completely clueless and joking about how trusting her victims were. The defense's attempts to portray Chen as a dedicated doctor who made poor documentation choices fell apart completely when prosecutors played recordings of Chen explicitly negotiating organ prices and discussing how to select the best candidates for harvesting. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all 47 counts of aggravated assault, all 47 counts of practicing medicine without proper consent, and additional charges related to organ trafficking, fraud, and conspiracy. On April 15, 2021, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before Judge Patricia Morgan for sentencing. The courtroom was silent as victim after victim was given the opportunity to address the woman who had stolen their reproductive futures. Emma Rodriguez spoke first. "You took something from me that can never be replaced. You didn't just remove my ovaries. You removed my hope, my dreams, my future family. I want you to know that every day you spend in prison is a day you can't hurt another woman the way you hurt me." The impact statements continued for over 2 hours, 47 women sharing their pain, their struggles, their destroyed dreams. Many couldn't finish their statements through tears. Others spoke with a cold fury that was somehow even more powerful. Chen herself showed no remorse. When given the opportunity to speak before sentencing, she maintained her innocence and claimed she was being persecuted by a witch hunt led by ungrateful patients who didn't understand medicine. Judge Morgan's response was swift and decisive. "Dr. Chen, in my 30 years on the bench, I have never encountered crimes more calculated, more intimate, or more devastating than yours. You betrayed the most fundamental trust that exists between doctor and patient. You weaponized your medical knowledge to commit crimes that have destroyed lives and dreams." The sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole on the assault charges, plus an additional 200 years for the trafficking and conspiracy charges. Chen would never see freedom again. But for the victims, the sentencing was only the beginning of their journey toward healing. The Chen case sent shockwaves through the medical community and led to significant changes in how surgical procedures are monitored and documented. Oregon passed Emma's Law, requiring multiple independent verifications before any reproductive organ can be removed, and establishing a statewide database to track such procedures. The case also highlighted the vulnerability of marginalized patients in the medical system. Most of Chen's victims were women of color, immigrants, or from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, populations that already face significant barriers to quality health care and are less likely to question medical authority. Several of Chen's victims have become advocates for medical reform and patient rights. Emma Rodriguez started a nonprofit organization that provides support for victims of medical crimes and advocates for stronger protections for vulnerable patients. "If my nightmare can prevent even one other woman from going through what I went through, then maybe some good can come from this horror," she says. The international investigation is ongoing. While Chen's network largely escaped prosecution, authorities in several countries have opened their own investigations into suspicious organ trafficking activities. The case has led to increased international cooperation on medical crimes and organ trafficking. For the victims themselves, healing has been a long and difficult process. Many have undergone years of therapy. Some have found alternative paths to parenthood through adoption or surrogacy. Others have chosen to focus their energy on advocacy and prevention. Lisa Thompson perhaps put it best in a recent interview. "Sarah Chen took my ovaries, but she couldn't take my strength. She couldn't take my voice, and she couldn't take my determination to make sure this never happens to anyone else." The case of Dr. Sarah Chen represents one of the most shocking betrayals of medical trust in modern history. It reminds us that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they wear white coats and carry stethoscopes. But it also shows us the incredible strength of survivors who refused to be silenced, who fought for justice not just for themselves, but for all the women who might have become victims if Chen's crimes had continued. As we close this story, I want you to remember Emma Rodriguez, Lisa Thompson, Maria Santos, and the 44 other brave women who spoke out against their abuser. Their courage not only brought a predator to justice, but potentially saved countless other women from the same fate.